It's that time. We have a very special guest and a very informative dialogue. And I'm going to let David Alldredge introduce our special guest, but I am pleased to introduce you to your interview host, our very own chapter ambassador, ESEP leader, ESEP leader, and all-around good guy, Mr. David Alldredge. Take it away, Mr. David Alldredge.
Okay, thank you very much, Mark. And I'm very happy to be here tonight and have a discussion here about Incose certification. We're pleased to have with us tonight Ms. Courtney Wright, who is a certification program manager at Incose. Now, I first met Courtney several years ago when we worked at the same company, actually, both promoting certification in different ways. But anyway, Courtney, tell us a little bit about your background and what you do in your current job with Incose.
Yeah, Dave, I think that the fact that you and I worked together, yet somehow I think I made a misstep somehow, because I was one of the first people within our employer's organization to get Incose certification. And as many may have experienced, when you do something, then they say, okay, now help everyone else go do that as part of those additional duties as required. So I ended up helping my colleagues get their Incose certification. I think you kind of hid in the background and didn't advertise yours, so that was a smart move. And then I was just occasionally working with Incose to help my colleagues get certified. And through that, working closely with the certification program manager at the time, Dave Walden, and also setting up internal structures to get folks certified from our employer. And then when the position opened up, a staff position with Incose to be the certification program manager, I applied for that. And it's just about the 8-year anniversary for me starting that role. So if any of you remember that transition, then you can reflect back. It's been 8 years since I've been doing this stuff.
Okay, very good. Thank you for that. Now, could you give us, please, a brief overview of the certification options? That's ASEP, CSEP, and ESEP, and show us maybe where we could get more detailed information if we wanted to apply.
Yeah, I'm going to see if I can pull up a slide here that'll give us there's the text to go with what I'm saying here. So Incose certification has 3 levels. The base level, knowledge only, is the ASEP, the Associate Systems Engineering Professional, and that's knowledge based on the Incose Systems Engineering Handbook. The candidate for ASEP is going to need to pass a knowledge exam or an equivalent way of demonstrating their knowledge of certification of Systems Engineering Handbook. And that's it. They have to be an Incose member. They have to pay a little bit of money. They have to pass a knowledge exam. They become an ASEP. The next level of certification is the CSEP, the Certified Systems Engineering Professional. And that person passes that same knowledge exam. They're an Incose member, but they also have to have at least 5 years of work experience in systems engineering. Now, typically that means they have 6, 7, 8 or more years of work experience in whatever their job is, but at least 5 years of that as systems engineering work. They're going to have references who support that, and they're going to typically have an engineering degree or a similarly technical degree prior to applying for certification. And then our highest level of certification is the Expert Systems Engineering Professional, the ESEP. This person doesn't just have years on the job, although they do have at least 20, typically 25 or more years of systems engineering work experience, but the person also is an expert. They're a go-to person for difficult technical problems. They commonly, but not always, have had the job title of chief engineer on a project. But if not that job title, they might just be an expert within their domain or within a specialty area of engineering. So I'll pull the slide down for the conversation, but I just wanted to baseline us on those 3 levels of certification and compliment you on that hat, Dave. Very nice.
Thank you. I forgot to put that on at the beginning, but that's my certification hat.
Excellent. Well, hey, while I'm looking at that, and I'm going to post it in the chat later, but you all were talking about the Chesapeake chapter store at Land's End, the ability to get Chesapeake swag. We do also have that for the certification program. We don't have that particular hat that Dave is wearing, but we do have the, you know, the logo polos and that kind of stuff that you can get with the CEP logo on them.
Okay, that's great. Good to know. Actually, I made this hat. We had the patches made and then sewed it on the hat, but actually my wife made it. I didn't sew it. Our audience tonight consists of chapter volunteers and new CEPs. And I'm wondering, for the ones who aren't certified, what motivations would you give people who are not yet certified to pursue certification?
Yeah, I think the benefits of certification are, I guess I'm going to put them in two bins. One of them is the process that you go through to get certified and the value in that process, even if you were not to get the final certification, right? So if you went through all the steps, but then didn't get the logo, or you didn't get the initials next to your name. The other benefit is actually getting to tell people that you're certified. And so I'll start with that and then work backwards, that when you tell someone that you have an Incose certification, it helps define for them where your knowledge and experience are, also where your priorities are. And so, for instance, I have considered getting my PMP, but I've resisted it, and this may not be the right thing, but personally, I've just looked at what message do I want my resume to send to somebody, and I want them to see that I got this one certification, and that's part of what defines me. I'm not someone who just collects certifications, and so there's that proof that comes for someone, no matter what their background, with the Incose certification that says this external party evaluated me against standard criteria and I passed. And so that's what you get by earning the certification. But I think there's value even for those people who start the process of applying for certification or even of reviewing the certification levels, that even if they don't get certified, I would encourage people to start the process. And I would say to all of you who are helping people through prep courses or through training them or mentoring them, that it is a success for someone to even go part of the way. When someone looks at those 3 certification levels and looks at the requirements for them, it helps them figure out a career path. It helps them say, okay, here's where I am right now. I'm a supervised practitioner. I know systems engineering according to the handbook, but I don't yet have depth or breadth of experience. And so right now, my manager is pushing me toward doing more work with doors. They're wanting me to become the technology expert. But if I want to apply for CSEP in a couple years, then maybe I need some more breadth. So it does that for the career path of someone going from ESEP to CSEP or CSEP to ESEP, that they can look at what would I have to do to get to that next level, and is that something that I want to do? We don't often have those career paths defined for us for systems engineers within a company, and especially not as we switch companies or switch employers. So that definition of the career path is really useful, as well as the studying of the Incose handbook, getting the perspective on how what you do fits into other areas of systems engineering. The other requirements that we have for certification are useful for an individual to compare themselves to, even if they never actually end up submitting the application. It would be useful for them just to fill out the forms.
Okay, very good. I really like that idea of a career path, because few companies really have a career path in mind for employees. They just have a spot where they want them to be currently, you know. And so I think that's an excellent advantage to the certification idea. Now we're honoring tonight newly certified CEPs as well. And I'm wondering, what are some of the ways that after they've just got their certification, how can they leverage their new certification going forward?
Yeah, so some of the things that people can do to let others know they're certified. I'll start with that kind of, how do you share the good news? When someone gets certified nowadays, and this is different from when you and I got certified, they're going to get a link to a shareable link that shows their certificate. So when I got certified and the certification program was pretty US centric, I was mailed a printed certificate with a wooden frame. Okay, so this was not a scalable thing for us to continue to do. And we've been looking for what does the next generation want in a certificate. They want to be able to prove it. They want to be able to post it on their, as a link on their LinkedIn profile. And so that's something that they have now. They're going to get an email that has a link to their e-certificate. They have a PDF they can download and print out and frame if they want to for their home office. And then they're also going to be able to put the certification logo in their email signature if they want. They can buy the certification swag from Land's End, like I mentioned. They can join the CEP group on LinkedIn, and they get to attend the CEP receptions at the IW, the IS, and then the Chesapeake chapter when you all are able to have an in-person reception again. So these are just kind of the visible activities. We also have networking and volunteer activities that our CEPs can participate through volunteering to help with Incose things. Anything that a CEP does, helping out their local chapter or participation in an international working group, pretty much anything involved with Incose or STEM for that matter, other professional societies too, they're going to earn professional development units for. So again, back to that career path, we're steering people toward do some of these things that are going to help you with your professional development, because we're requiring those in order to renew their certifications. So one of them that I'm recruiting for right now is we are writing more exam questions for the Incose Knowledge Exam. Anyone who is already certified, we would love to have them volunteer to help us with writing those new exam questions. If they're interested, email certification@incose.org, or you can drop me a private message in the chat and I'll get back to you on that.
Okay, great. I'm glad to hear of the volunteer opportunities as well. Incose can always use help in all the things they do. Do most ESEPs, after gaining the appropriate length and breadth of SE experience, transition to CSEP?
Dave, this is such a great question. Dave and I talked about this last week, and I was like, I'm going to have to look that one up. So I did look it up just today so that I'd have the latest data. And so the quick answer is no. But that doesn't really tell the whole picture. So let me first tell you a different answer, which is half of our ESEPs transitioned from CSEP. All right. And so what that means is most of our ESEPs kind of grow up through the Incose system. They're a CSEP, they gain a little bit more experience. They look around and see the other ESEPs and they say, okay, yeah, I want to be in the club with these guys. So if we look back down, we say, well, our CSEPs don't typically come from ESEP, and our ESEPs don't always go to CSEP. What's going on there? And there's another piece. Many of our CSEPs will never become ESEPs. And I'm one of those folks, right? I'm not going to be that chief engineer. I'm not going to be that technical expert. I'm going to be the program manager, right? And it's great to have a program manager who gets systems engineering, but that's not the same as a chief engineer, right? The same thing with our ESEP to CSEP transition. It is great to have a program manager or an electrical engineer or a team lead who knows the systems engineering terminology from the handbook, right? That's all we require for them to become an ESEP. But they may never actually become a practicing independent practitioner of systems engineering. They may stay an ESEP. They may stay at that knowledge level, but not the it's what I do every day level. And so we do have a handful of people. I say handful. We have between 150 and 200 individuals have transitioned from ESEP to CSEP. But the majority of our ESEPs, and the program's been around for about 12 years, the majority either stay in ESEP or they transition out of Incose. They say, you know, I knew that stuff, but it's not something that is valued in my career right now for me to claim to be an ESEP. And so it's kind of more of a part of their education, and they transition away from it. All of these things are still positives from the Incose perspective, that we have individuals who were educated in the Incose way of doing systems engineering.
Right. I think, yeah, it's important that anybody who's an ESEP has that common background of jargon and terminology that they can immediately share with other SEPs without having to translate from a company's perspective.
Yeah, and I think that's going to be one of the directions that we're promoting in the near future, is that even the person who's not a systems engineer, but they work with systems engineers, would like them to get their ESEP, would like them to prove that they understand the terminology.
Oh, great, great. Now, one of the things about moving on to ESEP that I've heard about is a lot of CSEPs are a little bit intimidated by the interview. They don't know what that interview is, and they're worried about, you know, how would you prepare, you know, for an ESEP interview? Could you give us a little more detail on the ESEP interview part of it?
Yeah, so the ESEP interview is, we sometimes say it's instead of the knowledge exam, but that I think has scared people off because they think that we're going to be asking multiple choice questions during the phone call that is the ESEP interview. And we're not doing that. We're not testing them on the handbook content. We are interviewing them as we would a job candidate to learn about their experience, particularly their professional development, how they have developed and how they have helped others, kind of their mentorship, their leadership in technical situations, and their challenges. So we're trying to figure out if this person is recognized as an ESEP, are they going to be able to go into a job that someone's, you know, thinks, oh, I can hire an ESEP for this and perform. So it's very similar to a job interview. It's about an hour phone conversation between 3 current ESEPs who are trained as application reviewers, and they're just going to be asking about that person's work experience.
Okay, very good, very good. Well, I think that's all the questions that I have for you right now. Thank you for your excellent and inspiring answers. And I think we're now ready to turn the mic back to our Chesapeake chapter president, Mark Evans.